listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. Joined by Ben White, I am Mike Luke. Arizona victorious today, 78-59. Ben, this was a game where Arizona was, let's be honest here, this was a close game throughout, but in the end, I think you saw the rational, cool temper of the Arizona Wildcats take control of a game where ASU kind of, let's be honest, fell apart down the stretch.
Yeah, well, ASU is obviously one of those teams you live by the three or you die by the three, and ASU didn't make a single three in the second half.
Right.
ASU went 0 from 8 from 3, and I think there was a stretch where even the last 7 minutes of the game, they didn't make a field goal. Arizona was able to swing momentum. They forced a couple of turnovers. Arizona was able to get some timely shots from there, and their bigs just took over. I mean, you saw the experience. You saw kind of all of it come into fruition there in the second half, and ASU is obviously a team, like we said, kept it close throughout the first half. Arizona definitely could have been up more than they were. It was only a 7-point lead at halftime, and then everything kind of shifted in their momentum and in their direction.
I like it. Ben with a little body language right there. All right. The thing that really stuck out to me right here at this game is a lot of times you have teams where there's one guy that sticks out, and we've talked about this all season with the peaks, where you got Azuolas Tubelis, where you've got Oumar Ballo. But this was a game at halftime. We had 5 different guys that had 6 points. On top of that, again, you look at it, Azuolas Tubelis, 17 points. Oumar Ballo, leader of men, 14 points. Cedric Henderson, 14 points. Cedric Henderson might be a sneaky pick if Arizona were to win tomorrow to be your Pac-12 tournament player of the tournament, I guess, for lack of a better term. I apologize. But again, Courtney Ramey, up and down the list. Pelle Larsson, our guy, the Swedish pinball. This was a total team effort right here, Ben White.
Yeah, 4 guys in double figures. And when Arizona's been successful, you historically see at least 2 or 3 of those guards give you meaningful contributions. And that's what you saw tonight. Krisa, obviously, is somebody who struggled, didn't make a lot of shots, only made his first 3, I believe, with 3 or so minutes left in the game. But Henderson has been that steady force. I mean, we talk about Ramey, we talk about Boswell, and kind of how those guys have come together the last few weeks. I think when you look back at this Pac-12 tournament, whatever happens tomorrow, but you look at what Arizona's done against Stanford, you look at what they've done against ASU tonight, Henderson has kind of been that silver lining and that guy who's really come out and done and shown things that he just wasn't able to do throughout the year. And obviously, he's got some experience under his belt. He's a transfer. Like Brian Jeffries said last night, he's been in these spots before in these tournaments. So once you throw a guy in there, and obviously somebody who's played meaningful minutes throughout the year, who has developed even more, you're going to get great things, and that's what you saw tonight from Arizona.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this game. Obviously, we got the GOAT, Brian Jeffries, coming over here in a little bit. We might even be able to get Mr. Triple-Double himself, Matt Muehlbach, at some point. Who knows? No promises on Mr. Triple-Double, but first, got to pay a couple of the bills right here. First, OG's brand. All right, here's the deal. OGs, you can get them at any of your local dispensaries. You can get them indicas, sativas, you name it, they got it. And again, if you're somebody like our good friend William Brad Alice that can't sleep, you could get OGs, and it will help you sleep right there. And on top of that, they got new different stuff. You got strawberries and cream, and again, CBD, THC, 1:1 ratio, rebranded as Happy Balance right there. It's official. OG's new strawberries and cream Happy Balance gummies are live on the shelves. As always, you can find them at your local dispensary and checking out ogsbrand.com. Must be 21 and up to enjoy. And Roman. All right, here's the deal. As everybody gets older right here, there are a few, as aging sets in right now, your libido levels start to drop a little bit, your testosterone levels go down, but don't worry about it. Roman is here to help. It's the digital health clinic for men, addressing a variety of sexual health needs and offering genuine medication that helps achieve and maintain a strong erection. Roman offers discreet wipes that help you last 4 times longer in bed. And again, in men with low T, getting testosterone levels back to normal can help increase your libido. Roman offers a testosterone test, which includes lab processing. And again, a lot of people are using this, and there's a reason, because it works. Okay, and to learn more about how you can achieve your personal sexual health goals, go to ro.co/PHNX to get 20% off your entire first order. That's ro.co/PHNX. Again, there's a reason. As everybody gets older, we're not in the 1940s anymore. There are things that are here to help you. Roman is one of them. Check it out. All right, now, back to the game right here. When you look at the University of Arizona, though, this is a team, Ben. We've talked about it. They're somewhat limited in areas because, again, it's not a super athletic team. We've talked about that. But, again, this team has really taken on kind of the meaning of its coach right there. You watch them, no matter what the score is, they never really get down. There's never really kind of that herky-jerky type mentality with them.
Yep.
And that's something, again, that I think is a real reflection on the coach. You watch Tommy Lloyd on the sideline, and the one thing about him is he's just a cool, calm customer, and you watch his team right there, and they're the exact same way.
Yeah, absolutely. They're cool, calm, and collective. And I think when you looked at this matchup, Arizona State, obviously imposed a lot when it came to guard matchups because there's just a level of athleticism that, is there amongst the guards. And Coach Lloyd walking right behind us. Right. Speaking of which, you look at what Arizona did tonight. I think there were stretches there, especially in the first half, where ASU hit a couple key threes. And ASU on the defensive side, man, you've said this all year. When teams press Arizona, good things can swing in the momentum for the opposition, but Arizona didn't flinch. Arizona was able to come out. They were able to still hit key, timely shots. And I think they were consistent in the sense that they were going to work inside out, which is what they do best. And then defensively, you look at what they did in the second half, stringing together 3 or 4 possessions where ASU just turned the ball over. They went on a 8-0 run, and at that point, Arizona goes from having a 5 to 7 point lead throughout the game to kind of building that 10 to 15 point lead, which is what we saw in the last 5 minutes. But yeah, every guard on this team brings just such a unique skill set, and despite the matchups and despite what opponents throw at this Arizona team, they're collective, they're consistent, and they stay poised. And that's what's made them so successful, because you got to win mentally, right?
Look at it this way, too. You've got a guy, and the great Nate behind us right there. What's up, big dog? All right, so the big thing, too, with Arizona is you got with Kirk Kriisa, obviously battling a little bit of a shoulder injury. You watch him, and we were talking about it. The shot just really isn't there right now. It's not falling. But again, he makes the dagger shot. How many times have we talked about that with Kerr, too? Can drive you crazy throughout the game, but when the chips are down, when you need a big shot, he generally comes up and he generally finds a way to make that shot go in. But my question is this. Now that we're seeing a little bit more Kylan Boswell.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a 7-man rotation as the backup peaks are now doing their work in practice, not necessarily in the game. But Kylan Boswell, when he's out there again, you're seeing a guy that every time you watch him, you want to see just a little bit more. Again, only 2 shots today, made them both. But again, 4 rebounds, an assist. He just brings a added dynamic to this team that, I'll be honest with you, I was wrong on. I did not see coming this way this part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at him as a player, I think when you look at what he brings physically and you look at the attributes that he brings, it's not surprising, but it is surprising in the sense that it's happened so quickly.
Right.
At his age, as somebody who's been thrown out there this year, and we've talked about who is this guard, what does this backup court look like, and what does Arizona bring from a guard standpoint, and he's really kind of been the shining knight when Arizona really needs somebody to come in.
Shining knight, I like that. Maybe we're going to hold that one right there.
Quote that, yeah. I mean, he's kind of been that guy, though, when Arizona gets into stretches maybe where they have troubles offensively. Even if he's not scoring, he's able to come in, he's able to run the point efficiently, and he's able to distribute the ball inside, and that's what you want to see. And, on the Kerr point, I get it. There's obviously a level of frustration that comes with the way he played tonight, and, I don't know how much you want to attribute that to the injury. I think you can attribute a significant amount to that, or just some of those things where you get in a slump. And, when you get in a slump, what do you say? You got to keep shooting. And I think what's most important, and you look at what he did tonight, is he was taking good shots. I mean, these weren't situations where Kerr was running the ball up the court and just jacking up any 3 that he could get, saying, I got to make a shot, I got to make a shot. It was timely shots, and, they weren't looking pretty. They were pretty ugly for most of the game. But even when he's not making shots, he can do so much more. His passing is second to none, as we've talked about. And as long as he's getting the ball inside to Tubelis and Ballo, and they work inside out, Arizona's going to be as effective as they can offensively, despite what he may be doing from a shooting perspective.
All right, speaking of essentials right there, Circle K. We're super excited to partner with our good friends at Circle K. Check out your local Circle K for the best coffee, beer, snack selection, you name it. I like eating good food that tastes good. You can get that at Circle K. I also like cheaper gas. You can get that as well.
You also like nachos, and Circle K has nachos.
Circle K does have nachos. Yes. I will tell you one thing. The PHNX Sun Devils crew, which does a fantastic job, obviously tune into them right after this as well. I can speak for them by saying I'm pretty sure on their way up here they made a pit stop at Circle K, as did myself and the great John Schuster right there. So again, Circle K, and we're excited to partner with our friends at Circle K to kick things off. We've teamed up for an amazing giveaway opportunity. Text PHNX to 31310 for an opportunity to win a $500 gas card. See show notes for details right there. And Mountain Mike's Pizza. Again, many people think I'm Mountain Mike. They are wrong. I am not Mountain Mike. Mountain Mike is a much better person than me, and he makes great pizza. Oracle and Wetmore. You go there, and you can
Tucson.
In Tucson, and as Ben White has pointed out in the past, they're in California as well. So, again, Mountain Mike's Pizza at Oracle and Wetmore. Great place to check out the game. Also, a great place to take a family. You name it, they got it. Head over to Mountain Mike's Pizza or their Mesa, Chandler, or Tucson locations to place your next order. Yep. Reminder, new Diehards get a $50 voucher upon signing up.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, sign me up for that. Sign me up for 2. All right, now, looking back at this Arizona game, we need to talk, though, about the ability that Tommy Lloyd has shown to be able to get guys in here that, quite frankly, I didn't see making this kind of contribution.
Yeah.
And we got to start with Cedric Henderson here. Cedric Henderson is a guy who his pops played in the NBA right after Penny Hardaway at Memphis. Obviously comes from the lineage. But when you're coming from Campbell, you don't know a ton about him. And, again, he's had some ups and downs. But right now, he is playing his best ball at the best time of the year right now. And, honestly, I don't want to compare him necessarily to Dalen Terry because, again, it's a different skill set. Yeah. But he's kind of filling in a little bit of that jack of all trades from being that long, athletic wing.
He is,
defend a little bit, scoring. And I think it's a scoring output especially that has really impressed me there, Ben White.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you look at what he did tonight and, looking at our post-game comments, which you can find on the PHNX Wildcats Twitter page right now, Lloyd was just asked about Henderson, and his response was kind of what we were hinting at. He's one of those guys you wish you could have for a couple more years.
Right,
It's unfortunate that he comes in as a transfer. He comes in on the last leg of his college career, but you're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at the guards, and we were talking about this before tip-off, just watching them warm up, it's not to say that, ASU is the better team per se, but when you look at the guards and the athleticism that ASU presents and you kind of compare them next to Arizona, there's a clear physical deficit there. But like we've talked about, it doesn't seem to matter.
Right.
Just because these guards on Arizona, they have the ability to defend, they have the ability to shoot, and they're as versatile as they get. And I think Henderson's kind of been that main guy. I mean, you look at the physical limitations of somebody like Boswell or Kreese, obviously smaller guys, and while they shoot the ball very well, Boswell is an athletic guy. But again, when you have that size issue a little bit, somebody like Henderson steps up and kind of brings Arizona that versatile 3-and-D guy, like you said. This isn't a team that still has Dalen Terry and Benedict Mathurin. Those are 2 huge losses, and the way that Lloyd's been able to bring guys in like Henderson and Ramey kind of at the last minute and really kind of develop these guys, even somebody like Kreese, despite the shooting woes, he's gotten significantly better compared to last year.
Right.
All these players, it's a common denominator and it's a common trend like we've talked about. They continue to get better, and they're getting better at the right point in the season.
All right, many people ask about John Schuster. John Schuster he will be back with us. He drove me up to Las Vegas. As we talked about, we stopped at Circle K. John Schuster likes to come up here, visit friends, party a little bit. He likes to take these few games off, but don't worry, he will be back in action with us next week. The show, Ben White doing an amazing job. Appreciate everybody here. But again, John Schuster will be back with us. Again, we can rely on him, and you can rely on him too. You know one other thing you can rely on?
What's that?
The DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. All right, here's the deal. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, I've heard about this. But you might say to yourself, well, I don't. You can bet $5. Again, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And again, what's the code word, Ben White?
What's the code word, Mike Luke?
PHNX.
We got it.
Thanks for asking. And again, only a DraftKings Sportsbook app with code word PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Our good friend Shane Diefenbach right here. His ASU Sun Devils lost. I told you yesterday that, you know what, that would be my pick right there. I would have made a little bit of money betting on Arizona to cover and the over. And again, where do you find the set? The DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. This is the time of the year because, again, you got college basketball, high gear, you got the NBA. You got baseball right around the corner. Baseball.
You got hockey, you got UFC, you got everything.
You got everything. You name it, they got it. The DraftKings Sportsbook app. All right, now let's talk about a little bit what this means then going forward. I do believe that Arizona at this stage, worst case scenario, is at the very highest of the 3 seeds right there. And honestly, Ben, I think that if Arizona beats UCLA tomorrow, we're going to get our predictions here in a few minutes, but I think if Arizona beats UCLA tomorrow, I think you're looking very much at a number 2 seed out west, because I just don't see how Gonzaga's resume is better than Arizona's. And quite frankly, I don't even think it's close.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it goes without saying. And I think when you look at the matchup tomorrow, obviously there's some injuries on the UCLA side with Jalen Clark. Bona had an injury today. So you don't know what UCLA is going to look like tomorrow. And if Arizona can come in and really be efficient early and take care of business and slow the game down and play good inside-out basketball, you shouldn't see an issue there. But, yeah, I mean, I think seating-wise, and, the Pac-12 for the most part, we've had a couple of interesting Cinderellas, I guess ASU being the obviously biggest one up until tonight. But you look at what the Pac-12 tournament has done in some of these other tournaments throughout the country, there have been some significant losses. I mean, you look at the Big Ten, there's been a couple of ups and downs and swings that I think could favor Arizona. So if you're an Arizona fan, what matters to me, I don't care if it's a 3, I don't care if it's a 2, I care if I'm in the West.
Right.
And I think at this point, it's fair to say Arizona's probably going to be in the West.
And you know what? We're saying that for selfish reasons, because that's easier to get to. Sacramento, much easier to get to than Orlando, which is very, just saying that from a selfish perspective right there, just putting that one out there. Now, again, Ricky Garrett right here, one of our all-timers, gives a big shout-out right here to Sean and Shane. He says, the production quality is amazing. You guys sound great, and the camera quality is absolutely fantastic. That has nothing to do with Ben or myself. That has all to do with the guys behind the scenes. So, again, big shout-out to them. Now, let's talk about UCLA a little bit.
Yep.
UCLA to me, thank you, Shane. Shane does everything for me. All right, let's talk a little bit about UCLA, though. UCLA is, you're looking at a number 1 seed with them, but they are obviously a different team without Jalen Clark. Now, granted, they went against Oregon, blew out Oregon at the end, but Oregon has been pretty much crazy all season. You never watch Oregon this year and say that, that they have all of their stuff together, because quite frankly, they don't. But this still comes down to Tiger Campbell, Jaime Jaquez. These are the guys that run it. Your conference player of the year, and in my opinion, the best point guard in the conference in Tiger Campbell.
Yeah.
Your scouting report starts, stops, ends with those two right there.
Yeah, it really does. And I think when you look at somebody like Campbell, he's a guy who can really turn it on and off. I mean, up until tonight, up until the midway through the second half, I mean, he only had about, 9 to 10 points or so. Then he was able to really heat it up there. And it was kind of like this game in the sense that, UCLA was up by 7-8, kind of lingered around. And obviously Oregon had some issues and, an injury concern there with Bona. But you look at what Campbell's able to do. I mean, he's a difference maker. Mm-hmm. He takes over the game. He clearly, like you said, is one of the best point guards in the conference, if not in all of college basketball. So that's the experience you're going to be going up against. And Arizona obviously had challenges with UCLA 2 weeks ago, just because you weren't able to get, significant production from a lot of those guards. And that's going to be, to me, as much as we want to talk about Jaquez and Tubelis and Balo up in the middle, and that's obviously very crucial, I think you're looking for Arizona to really have some level of consistency and string it together with those guards. If you can have 3 or 4 guys in double figures like we had tonight, really slow the ball down, force some turnovers. Arizona really thrives offensively off of forcing turnovers and creating momentum that way. I mean, Arizona's a good shooting team. I mean, obviously it goes without saying. They shot 56% from the field tonight, and ASU shot fairly well up until the second half, but Arizona just doesn't have that lights-out three-point shooter that can just string games away shot after shot. But what they do is they have that presence up front. They have the ability to create turnovers and make things easy and efficient offensively. And at that point, Arizona's in a good spot. So slow down the game, be efficient, force those turnovers, and really win up front. And I think Arizona should be in a pretty good spot tomorrow.
Now you might say to yourself, where can I watch March Madness with a lively crowd? We give you many options. Illegal Pete's. Now, I've been to Illegal Pete's with Ben White. I'm sure Shane Diefenbach, when he went to ASU, has been to Illegal Pete's.
Huge Pete's guy.
All right.
So good.
Yeah, it's very, very good. Our good friend Sean also, I'm sure, has been to Illegal. What's that?
There you go.
We were talking about it earlier. That's why these guys are smarter than me. They beat me to the punch when it matters right there. But again, Illegal Pete's. Nothing cures that bracket is busted in the first round like fresh limes, tequila, lots of tequila, and sweet agave. Try out Illegal Pete's Coin, Premium, or Frozen Margaritas. Stop by for happy hour 3 to 6 p.m. every day. Now, and if you go to the Tempe location, you might see the great Shane Diefenbach up there.
Yes.
Or
if you go to the Tucson location, maybe you'll see the great Mike Luke.
Or you know what? Our good buddy Brody Dryden. I've seen Brody Dryden there before. We're going to be talking with his pops.
Real tough guy to spot, right?
He is a tough guy to spot, all 6'8" of him.
Yes.
But, yes, Illegal Pete's, though, great stuff. Again, full menu, bowls, tacos, salads, nachos, burritos, you name it, they got it. Illegal Pete's. And, again, check out all the Arizona locations. All right, now, let's but if Arizona were to beat UCLA, again, I think you look at a resume then where you would have, and again, Jalen Clark's out for the out. I totally get it, but it is what it is. Arizona fans have certainly dealt with injuries over the years. We're well aware of how those ones work. But you would have 2 wins against UCLA, which is a top 5 team in the country. You would also have. You'd have Tennessee,
Indiana, Creighton,
San Diego State. I mean, again, outside of your Kansas, and I don't give Purdue any of that credit because beating up on bad, big, overrated Big Ten teams, no count.
Wait, the Big Ten's overrated? I had no idea.
Big Ten is overrated, so all of those beating up on mediocrity, you get no credit from Mike Luke for any of that. Not that they care what I have to say, but you get no credit for it. But Arizona's win resume right there at that point is about as good as it gets. You're not finding much better than that, are you?
Yeah. No, I think so. And I think, what you've seen, throughout college basketball this year when it comes to the committee and what we've talked about when it comes to win-losses and seeding for the tournaments, this is really one of these years where you're going to be favored based on the quality of wins you have versus the losses. And I think when you look at Arizona, they obviously have some of the most quad wins in all of the country.
All right, now joined by the GOAT, Mr. Brian Jeffries. Hello, Brian. How you doing?
8.
What's that?
Quad 1 wins.
Quad 1 wins right there. Now, we were just talking about that. You look at Arizona's resume right there. You would have, right now you got UCLA, you've got Tennessee, you've got Creighton, you've got Indiana, you've got San Diego State. A lot of these wins have really aged well over that.
Yes.
You now have an opportunity to beat a UCLA team for a second time, and at that point, you've really solidified, let's be honest, a quite impressive resume when it comes to wins right there.
Oh, they've had a great schedule, and you're right. I mean, they've not only played a tough schedule, but they've won some key games along the way. I think on the other side, they've lost 6 games, and so you can't take anything away from that either. The loss to Stanford was the one I think that really hurt in terms of their net number and everything. So, no, I think tonight, in my mind, Mike, I think that they've solidified a 2 seed with their win tonight. Because tomorrow you've got 2 top 10 teams going at it.
Right.
I mean, it's no matter who wins or loses, the committee usually doesn't punish a loser when you've got 2 teams that have been this good all season long.
Right. And you look at it, Brian, UCLA and Arizona, let's be honest, throughout the years, these are the 2 teams. There's other teams that have been very good, have had nice runs in there, but there is nothing like Arizona and UCLA when they are both at their peaks right there. And that brought a smile out of your face right there.
Well, I mean, it's one of the great rivalries in college basketball.
Right.
And it has been for a long time. And is it going to end here after next season? I predict it won't, by the way.
Okay.
I think somehow they're going to figure out a way to play each other. I don't know if it's going to be every season, but I think it's going to happen. Just because it would be foolish not to.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Right.
So, yes, it's appropriate. They were picked to finish first and second in the league. They finished first and second in the league. And here we go, back-to-back years. I think it's the 4th time now they'll play one another for the conference tournament championship. And so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Brian, have I told you about the official brew of PHNX?
Yes, you have, several times, Mike.
All right.
In fact, would you remind me again?
I would gladly remind you again. 4 peaks. Now, again, I consider the U of A big men the 4 peaks right there. You've got Umar Ballo, Azuolas Tubelis, but then you've got Dylan Anderson and Henry Vasar who do their work behind the scenes in practice. Dubbed the 4 peaks. And they're just as effective, though, as 4 Peaks Brewery.
Is there NIL money in this?
There is not NIL money, but you know what? That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen at some point right there. But, again, Four Peaks, best place to spend St. Paddy's Day. Four Peaks 8th Street Pub, of course. Hang out with your favorite degenerates and enjoy a good time. Must be 21 years up to join or to be there, or to drink responsibly. Be sure to follow us on social media at Four Peaks to get all the latest on Arizona Premium Craft Brewery. Do you like that nickname for the Four Peaks, the big men?
Sure.
You can be honest with me, Brian.
No, as long as you came, that's fine. Let's go for it.
All right, we're going to run with that one then. But speaking of which, then, we talked about it yesterday. Umar Ballo, Azuolas Tubelis again. And Umar Ballo, there was kind of fell into a little bit of a funk, but man, he's playing. He looks back. Whatever it was, he looks back. He's getting you that 15-8 every single night. And when those two are playing like that, they are the ones that can stem tides. They can, stop runs. They did it again today with a lot of help from a lot of different players, obviously. We'll get to Seth Henderson in a minute. But again, with Arizona, you got to start with the two big men up front.
Well, I thought it was interesting looking back at the two regular season games between these two teams. When they played at McHale, the paint points, I believe, were dead even at 30 apiece. But ASU was plus 12 in the game up in Tempe. And so, that's Arizona doesn't lose the paint battle very often. And so we thought about that. Reggie and I talked about that was going to be a real key because last night those two kind of sparked Arizona in the beginning against Stanford, and they did it again tonight. And I think they had to.
Right.
Because that is the core. That's how Arizona wins its games. They've had plenty of help from the other guys, but those two guys are kind of the cornerstone.
And this was a real team effort there. I looked at halftime. You had 5 guys that had 6 points, and they all seemed to contribute in various ways. Tommy Lloyd talked about Cedric Henderson after the game and obviously speaks very highly of the young man, and he said his only regret is that he wished he had more time with him.
Yeah.
The way that this man is able to construct rosters and put them together in a way that maybe they're not the highest, they're not the quote-unquote 5 stars or whatever. You got a guy from Campbell, you got a guy from Texas right there. And they have, by the end of the year, they've essentially molded seamlessly into this year, Brian.
Well, that to me, Cedric Henderson and Courtney Ramey, their experience has really come to the forefront here, and in particular an event like this. And both of them played in conference tournaments before, but they were excited to get here. And so, I think Cedric has been, at least these last 2 nights, has been, the biggest, I hate to use the word surprise, but his contributions have been extremely valuable. And it sets up where when you're scouting Arizona, who do you not guard?
Right.
And now you got 5 guys you have to guard, and Pella and Kylan come off the bench as well. Can I throw one little thing before I forget in
Brian,
here?
you can throw anything in here.
Pella Larson collected 3 assists tonight. He has 100 for the season. Courtney Ramey, Kirk Kriisa were already over 100 assists. 7th time in school history that Arizona has had 3 players with over 100 assists in the same season.
Wow.
And the first time since 1998.
Miles, Mike, and Jason Terry.
There you go.
Wow, I'm going to hold on to that one right
All right,
there. That's
you
a
hold on
heck
to
of a
that.
stat.
Yeah.
I will give you credit, even though it's a public information, but I did not know about that until then. Brian, that's a great
Well, I
stat.
just made it public information.
Because people didn't know about it until then. Ben, you were gonna chime in.
Yeah, I think, Brian, too, when you look at somebody like Henderson, obviously he brings that experience, but we were talking a little bit about Kylan Boswell in the game, and I think the young man, what he's done game after game, whether it's scoring, obviously not tonight with the 6 points, but just speak to his developmental and just the fact that he's able to kind of contribute and do so many different things and so quickly. That's what's so interesting to see.
Well, he plays with a lot of confidence, and I think that's really important because he plays such a valuable position. And tonight, with Kirk Kriisa not being 100%, Tommy said this afternoon, he says we're going to need, Kylan, we're going to get him in and out a little more maybe than usual up the rotation because they didn't want to push Kerr too much. They didn't want him to get tired and do anything foolish with that shoulder. So Kylan tonight, it wasn't his best game by any means. But at the same time, he's still a freshman. And for him to handle the environment right now, I think is tremendous tribute to him. He takes coaching so well, wants to get better game in and game out. And so he's got a tremendous future. And they got that tight 7-man rotation. And all 7 need to perform on a nightly basis, and Kylan's been doing exactly that.
And speaking of Kylan, speaking of his shooting too, the way that his shot has really come around here this last 2 to 3 weeks, I mean, I'm not saying he's Steve Kerr, but when he's got an open shot, when he's taking his shot, he's taking that with the confidence, and I think everybody expects it to go in.
Well, I think we talked about that last night, that when Tommy recruited him, he recruited him as a shooter.
Yeah.
And, of course, knew that he was a point guard as well, but was most impressed with the fact that he could shoot the ball. So I mean, we just seen he's just scratched the surface in terms of what I think he can do offensively.
Absolutely. Ben?
Yeah, when you look at UCLA tomorrow, what are the keys for Arizona?
Well, I mean, they're a very experienced club. They've won 12 in a row. They deserve to be where they are. Now, they've got some personnel issues. Jalen Clark's not going to play, and Adem Bona, I don't see him playing tomorrow after watching what happened to him today. I mean, I don't know that for sure. I'm not a doctor. Mm-hmm. I played one on the radio occasionally.
Brian, let's not minimize your background right here.
I just, when he went down and I saw the reaction of his teammates when they saw it, I think it's dislocated. Right. And you saw the look on their face. They knew that. Yeah. But the fact he sat on the bench, he had a smile on his face. So I don't know, but and he's not a big offensive player, but 50-plus blocks this year. He's tremendous defensively, and that shortens UCLA's bench up. Again, it's a very good team. And they without him, they pulled away from Oregon and won easily. Yeah. So I don't think anybody should say, oh, gee, UCLA's down 2 starters. It's going to be the Wildcats will walk away with that. That's not going to be it. Arizona's got to play a tough basketball game because UCLA is the toughest team in the Pac-12. And so, the hard hats come out tomorrow night. Umar Ballo, who's played outstanding these last 2 games, his strength, I think that's what you alluded to, and he needs to have that again tomorrow.
All right. Well, and you might say to yourself, well, where can I watch some of these games? Tap and Bottle downtown.
Well, how about right here?
You could watch it. By the way, Brian, after I get the Tap and Bottle read, I got something on air that I'm going to surprise you with as well that I was looking at earlier. But Tap and Bottle watch parties downtown. Scott and Rebecca do a great job. Brody Dryden, a man that has been down there multiple times.
I've heard it. I met him once.
Have you met him a few times? Yeah. Now, if you listen to Brody says that he's 6'6". Brody is definitely taller than 6'6". How tall is Brody really?
I'd say 6'7.5".
All right. Well, you know what? Generally, people like myself, we give each other a couple inches. Brody brings it down. Doesn't matter either way. But check it out. You can get 4 peaks there as well, and watch games. Have a beer. Again, Scott and Rebecca do a great job. Support local. Tap and Bottle. All right, Brian. Sacramento, which possibly could be where Arizona.
State capital, California.
Yep. You know what? Guess what I was looking at.
What you were looking at in Sacramento. Some food place, probably.
I was looking at the best seafood restaurants in Sacramento right there, Brian.
And as somebody who grew up in Sacramento, I have one for you.
Okay.
Rudy's Hideaway, Surf and Turf or Prime Rib.
Rudy's Hideaway.
In Folsom, California, yes.
All right, so Brian Jeffries has the market cornered on seafood in Omaha, Nebraska, Las Vegas, Nevada, and now Sacramento. California right there.
The Wildcats go to Sacramento.
Yeah, we're again, we're no guarantees, just saying that's something that could possibly happen.
By tomorrow night, you better have a place in Denver.
You probably, absolutely, exactly. And then we'll look for seafood there as well.
Okay.
But, all right, I appreciate everybody hopping in here right here. Huge shout out to everybody. You guys are the ones that make the show. And again, Ben White, you're fantastic. We'll be on tomorrow. The GOAT, as always, Brian Jeffries. Thank you, my guy.
Hey. Thanks, guys.
All right. And Shane Diefenbach behind the scenes. Sean, Dom, awesome work right there on social media. Michaela also doing her thing. Appreciate everybody. We will be back with you tomorrow. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.